In the waning light of dusk, the town of Elders Hollow lay shrouded beneath a haze of thick fog that rolled in from the nearby reservoir. Only faint silhouettes of aged buildings could be made out against the darkening horizon, a congregation of structures that whispered secrets of forgotten bygone eras. Outside, the heartbeat of nature stuttered, the usual rustling of leaves and chirping of crickets submerged beneath an uncanny silence, as if the world itself held its breath. Today, even the wind seemed reluctant to break the calm, wrapping the locality in a disquieting embrace. Along the main cobbled street, Jacob Thorne wandered, hands shoved deep into the pockets of his coat, hunched against the encroaching chill. Jacob was a reserved man, a librarian by profession, whose life had recently pivoted into an unsettling spiral after his brother Ethan, forever the familial wanderer, vanished during an expedition to the dense woods that bordered the town. Each whispered rumor and idle gossip seemed to cast an eerie pall over the still air, and the return of the fog only heightened his unease. Ever since he received the call notifying him of Ethan's disappearance, the sky had been an oppressive shade of gray. Jacob's mind drifted aimlessly. Memories of the jovial son and companion he had shared countless adventures with now felt muted, as if they were echoes drifting on a dim wavelength just out of reach. A clutter of unexplainable nightmares invaded his sleep, distorted faces obscured by darkness, shadows whirring like tendrils curling around his mind, and an ever-present sense of something looming outside his comprehension. Something was wrong in Elders Hollow, something palpable that skirted the edges of perception. The librarian's routine brought him to the door of the local library, an unremarkable stone edifice that had weathered every storm of time. Inside, the musty scent of aging books washed over him as he crossed the threshold. Stillness dwelled in the stacks, but the aura felt tainted, the shadows deeper than he remembered. Pulling a book on local lore from the shelf, he rifled through its pages, seeking comfort in familiar knowledge. Yet, the stories seemed unmoored, laden with hints of archaic rites and tales of celestial travelers that played on the periphery of his consciousness. A faint creak startled him, drawing his gaze toward the rear window where the fog lay thickest, casting the library into a muted twilight. Dim figures loomed out there, mere flickers in the obscure distance. The hairs on Jacob's neck prickled. They seemed to linger longer than folks typically would, faces hidden under the mist like secrets he dared not uncover. He dropped the book, the thud echoing like a warning in the heavy quiet. Rational thoughts melted away as a single instinct screamed at him. Something was alive out there. The next morning, Jacob rose determined to confront whatever creeping malevolence had settled over the town. He reached out to old friends of Ethan's, rabidly seeking any crumbs left behind, desperate to tether himself to his brother's fate. Like detritus clinging to a driftwood log lost at sea, Jacob felt at the mercy of the tide. But every inquiry led him deeper into shadows, a collective of weary folk who had grown accustomed to pain, each bearing stories altogether too uncanny. Their eyes brimmed with fear, stories of forgetfulness, vanishing memories, and creatures spun from nightmares. An elderly woman named Mariah, her hair a silver cloud framing her face, spoke to him with urgency that ignited the fire of his unraveling mind. It's not the woods we should fear, Jacob. It's what has come from them. Things unseen yet all too present, shadows that whisper our names. She glanced around, as if expecting something unseen to shift the air. Elders Hollow has always been a watcher of sorts. Watcher? Jacob echoed, feeling foolish at having asked. Her eyes were deep wells, but they twinkled with despair. She recounted the town's grim folklore, legends of the star-seers, entities that had once graced their lands long before the settlers arrived. As her tales unfurled, Jacob felt an unsettling resonance, an ancient dread that hummed in his veins. Over the following days, Jacob experienced a progressive disintegration of his mental fabric, like thread unspooling under an unseen gaze. The remnants of reason scattered beneath the inexplicable weight of his fears. The signs became irrefutable, flickering lights at the edges of his vision, whispered voices blurred with an unrecognizable language. and increasingly strange encounters with the townsfolk. An unnatural camaraderie seemed to bind them, one that rendered him an outsider. The fog thickened each night, submerging Elders Hollow in oblivion, and Jacob could hear the distant droning, an ethereal hum that echoed like cosmic incantations. One afternoon, drawn by an inexplicable pull, he ventured into the woods where his brother had disappeared. The trees loomed overhead, gnarled and twisted, their limbs like skeletal fingers clawing at the sky. With each step, the air grew heavier, stained with silence, and an otherworldly glow emanated from deeper within, beckoning him forth. Jacob felt an all-consuming compulsion to uncover what lay ahead. Suddenly, he found himself before an altar of stone, half buried beneath roots and moss. Symbols, older than any known civilization, coiled around its surface, pulsating in a rhythm that echoed the thumping of his heart. Gritting his teeth, he tried to comprehend their meaning when he saw them. Shadowy figures emerging from the deep woods, their forms warping and undulating like smoke, yet unmistakably humanoid. They shimmered with ethereal malice, their faces obscured but void of any empathy, staring back with something akin to amusement. One, stepping closer, gestured like a marionette pulled by strings. Surrounding Jacob, their whispers grew louder, permeating his mind, digging beneath the surface of his consciousness. "We have come," reverberated with disorientation. Their voices twisted around him like a vortex, frantic yet enticing, as he felt the world shift and warp around his perceptions. Jacob stumbled back, mind racing with the haunting certainties of existence. These things fed upon fear, thriving in the ambiguity of torment. He could now recall fragmented memories. His brother Ethan, a shared moment of wonder in exploration, now tainted with something sinister. How Ethan had always been drawn deeper and deeper into the cosmos, the urge to reach beyond the veil of human understanding. Amid the confusion, his thoughts turned to a singular theme, a growing realization. The fabric of the universe was fragile, and they, the agents of that fragility, swirled around him, their smiles hidden yet somehow pulsing with satisfaction, feeding off the chaotic energies of despair surrounding his brother's absence. They were no mere imaginings. They were the grotesque interlopers of the cosmos, star-seers who took pleasure in the psychic disintegration of their prey. As he turned to flee deeper into the woods, the ground quaked beneath his feet, and the air was suffocating, swirled with the scent of decay and madness. Desperate to escape, Jacob fell into a frenzy, forcing himself through silhouetted woods that went on for eternity, chaos erupting within his mind. The familiar landscape twisted, branches reaching out like claws as he tore through the shadows. Yet, as he collided back onto the gravel path he'd left behind, something unexpected burst from the depths of his consciousness. An overwhelming surge of realization gripped him, anchoring him momentarily. He had to accept the truth. The answer was hidden within his fragmented memories, memories of Ethan and of them, those obscured beings who knew him better than he ever understood himself. "Jacob," a voice echoed beyond the veil, tender yet warped, a voice he longed to hear. In that echo, his senses twisted. The fog enshrouding Elders Hollow thickened, swirling with an oppressive intensity. The townsfolk emerged from the darkness, faces drenched in an unearthly glow. They welcomed him home, yet bore looks of yearning and despair, as if they too yearned for connection. The features shifted, and it became chillingly clear. They had become woven into the fabric of the interlopers, an unsettling melange of humanity and something far older, far unfathomable. "Join us, Jacob," they chanted softly, luring him closer. The harmony of their voices filled the weighty air, an incantation that sought to enfold him within their obscured reality. The curiosity gnawed at him. What ethereal truths lay within his brother's fate, the mysteries of their shared existence? In an ambiguous moment, Jacob stared into their distorted forms. Could he take that final plunge? The boundary between reality and the unfathomable blurred, becoming suffocating yet tantalizing. The question hung there like a dark cloud, weighing heavily in the existential limbo. Would surrendering to the allure of the cosmic abyss bring him closer to Ethan, or would it lead him into the void, entwining him with shadows forever lost? Awash in fear, he felt those dark figures drawing closer. Jacob stood at the cusp of a decision that would reverberate through the very fibers of existence, teetering on the edge of enlightenment or annihilation. He closed his eyes, listened, and caught between haunting memories and alien whispers, felt himself begin to unravel. In the drumming of his heart, as vividly alive yet blurring into haze, he understood that the ambiguities of choice lingered laden with terror. Surrender or struggle, they melded and swirled like the fog around him. In the end, there was no clear resolution, just the dissonance of twilight and the ethereal lullaby of shadows woven forever into the fabric of Elder's Hollow. The lure of the Starseers pulsed through his veins, promising knowledge but offering annihilation. Jacob took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their gaze, weighted upon the fulcrum of existence, and as the fog closed in, it all spiraled to silence. The denouement was not meant to be resolved.